Joining us now to get his take is Oklahoma's own Senator James Lankford, who's in Washington because he thought if I had to come here, he had to leave, and he's wrong. I'm coming to you from the – You much prefer to be in Oklahoma?
I would much prefer to be in Tulsa with you today. Absolutely.
I'm at KRMG, as you know, News 102.3, AM 740. You know how respected this station is in the area. We love being on their station, and they always do such a great job here. But Senator, while everyone's talking about the salacious things happening in the country and in Washington, I would argue the biggest news is really what happened in the House yesterday.
That is exactly right. Tax reform passing in the House is an incredibly significant moment. It takes the first step. As people know their Constitution, though, you can't move a second step on tax or on anything on spending until the House of Representatives actually passes it first. So they passed it. The Senate will be able to pick up our version. Then the week after we come back from Thanksgiving, be able to do our version. We'll be able to conference that over the next couple of weeks and to be able to get that done. It dramatically simplifies how taxes are done. It does lower, contrary to what all the Democrats were saying, it does lower taxes for people in the middle class. It dramatically changes our business code to try to get us a little more simple.
I want you to hear what Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon said, because he said essentially just that, cut 6.
According to the latest figures from the Joint Committee on Taxation, in 2021, families earning $30,000 and under are going to get clobbered by a tax hike of nearly $6 billion to pay for this handout to multinational corporations.
Your reaction? I thought the lowest rate was dropped.
Yeah, the lowest rate is dropped. He knows that as well. This is the wonderful thing about Washington, D.C., is trying to get the real number for anything. He's taking a number and saying there's this estimate that if we take out the individual mandate from Obamacare, that those individuals may have higher taxes. It is absolutely smoke and mirrors and not true. The individual rate drops. There are more people in the 0% bracket, actually, that are paying no tax. They're going to continue to pay, gas tax and state tax and all those things they normally would, but we're increasing the number of people in the bottom that pay no tax, and that every tax bracket drops. So it is exceptionally important that people know the real facts on it rather than the smoke and mirror.
So, Senator Lankford, you're not on the Finance Committee, but they passed it out of the committee yesterday, 14-12. So for what you know about the plan, are you ready to sign off on it? Are you not, like Senator Ron Johnson, and so want to get to a yes and not at a yes? Is Senator Lankford at a yes?
I absolutely want to get to a yes on it. I want to be able to finish up the negotiations. There's no reason we can't get this passed and get it done. There are a couple aspects of it that I still want to change. I think some of the issues about charitable giving, I think we still can tweak. Nonprofits are so much more efficient than the government is in taking care of people that we need to continue to encourage charitable giving. I think there's some issues that we got with some of the way that the scoring was done. I want to make sure, and quite frankly, I'm pretty passionate about the debt and deficit. I want to make sure that we have a backstop to make sure that we continue to be able to watch for debt and deficit. So I'm going to work through those. Those are small issues. The biggest parts of it are actually very solid. And so I want to be able to make sure that we get it done right. But that's the nature of the next 3 weeks. It's not written completely. It's in process, but it's probably 95% written and done.
All right, so 95% written and done. You want to get to a yes, but you'll roll up your sleeves rather than sit back and say no. Have you talked to Senator Lankford and Senator Flake, who clearly don't like the president personally and politically, and said, are you going to take an honest look at this, or are you going to let this just be a blow to the president who you don't like?
Oh, no. I like the president, actually, so we'll be fine.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about them.
Yeah.
I know you like them, too.
Well, so I do. But, yes, this can't be personal, and my big challenge is at the moment that politics becomes personal, you got to be a grown-up and to be able to say, okay, we got to look at all the big issues for the nation and for the country, and it can't be I'm mad at one president or one person and be able to hold it out. So that's an issue I hope that we can all work through to be able to make sure we do right for the country long-term. Not just for any kind of political vendetta, and I think everybody's an adult enough to be able to do that here.
Are you going to go out and seek them personally and say, listen, Jeff, Bob, don't say little Bob Corker. He doesn't like that.
No, that's
and
not
just
right.
say, would you go up to him and just say, hey, listen, where you stand on this? And so I hope you can get past your personal animus.
I would say to this, Brian, I have already had a meeting already this week with Jeff Flake and with Bob Corker for us to be able to sit and visit. We have some similar concerns. And I think Jeff and Bob are both very committed to actually getting to a real solution. They want to see what's best for the country, including debt and deficit issues. So I know they've been very outspoken on that. I have as well on some of the issues, but they're resolvable issues. They're not impossible issues. So I don't see it at all as an issue like when we were fighting through Obamacare, trying to get that done, that there were some immovable objects in it. I think everybody's trying to be able to get to a spot to say, how do we fix this long-term permanently?
All right, so that's one thing, and I want to get to the Ukraine. I think it's so important to understand what's going on there and not just using it in a Russia investigation, because that's what really matters. Ukraine and Georgia, and how Russia's spreading their wings and carving up that country. But before, and of course, the Oklahoma National Guard is there, the 45th Infantry Brigade. But real quick, what happened yesterday? My head was spinning at the end of the show. I'm seeing about Senator Al Franken, and he comes out when he was just an author and a writer. He was doing horrible things to Leanne Tweed, and he apologized for it. Other people have brought up some of the things he's written about in the past. An ethics investigation is going to happen. Of all people, Senator Schumer has called for it. He wants an ethics and violation investigation on himself, which is bizarre. Where does Senator James Lankford stand on all this? Should he resign?
I'm going to let them walk through the ethics of it. And be able to resolve it. I'm glad that Senator Franken did come forward and say, hey, let's do the ethics investigation. He wasn't the first one that called for it. Mitch McConnell was actually the first one that called for it. And he kind of stepped back and said, yep, I'm not going to be able to fight this. Let's go ahead and do the investigation and kind of lean forward into it. I would say what I am pleased about is that the nation, for the first time in a long time, is looking at the moral behavior of its leaders and saying that does matter. I mean, we all remember going through the 1990s, and everyone was talking about the Clinton presidency, saying it's only about sex. It's not a big deal. We just need to be able to move on. The nation's now waking up and saying, you know what, these are real issues of moral character, and we should look at how people behave privately because it will affect what they do publicly as well. And I would hope in the days ahead that the nation will continue to be able to do that. No one is perfect. Everyone has issues in their own personal life. But the nation should look at your personal life and say that does matter about your own personal integrity. If you can't have integrity in your personal life, you probably won't have it in your public life either.
Well, and that the public life affects everybody because you represent people, especially in your state, with his two senators representing Oklahoma. Senator James Lankford's with us. Senator, real quick on this note, we know about the controversial Judge Roy Moore. We know that he's now trailing by 9 points in Alabama, which was unthinkable for a Republican senator. I mean, that might be the only state redder than Oklahoma, and he's losing by 9 points to an unknown. There's a movement now that maybe Mitch McConnell is going to push Luther Strange to resign now, which would allow for another special election date and would allow for another runoff. Are you for any of these type of maneuvers to get more out?
Well, that's a tough one, Brian, for me to be able to walk into because I honestly, I've followed it with great pain and with challenge to be able to watch what the people of Alabama are doing. And I've had folks from Alabama that have contacted me that are friends that I've known for years that have said, I'm in a really difficult spot because I don't want the Democrat that's there because they don't represent my values. But I'm not sure yet on Judge Roy Moore on what's fact and what's fiction and what to do. And they feel like they're absolutely in a horrible spot to try to figure out how to be able to make a decision on a vote that's coming in the next 3 weeks. So I would hope that whatever Mitch McConnell's doing, he's working with a Republican Party with their election group to be able to resolve this.
Senator, 9 women coming forward. That voter in Alabama that called you is not in a hard spot. You cannot vote for somebody that's calling people's mothers to get permission when you're 30 years old to date a teenager.
You know what I would say, Brian? The first thing that came out for me was, as a dad of a teenage daughter, I was absolutely astounded by it, the first accusation, and then it just comes out over and over and over again. What I've told people is every vote that I take, I have to be able to explain to my children, and that's one I can't explain to my children.
You can't. I mean, there's this absolute, it's not he said, she said. She's in high school. She got a call in trigonometry class to go to the general office, at which time 30-year-old Roy Moore was on the other line asking her out for a date. That is obscene, and I would kick his head in if it was one of my daughters, and then I would call the cops. Here is Sarah Sanders on where the president stands. Cut 27.
The president believes that these allegations are very troubling and should be taken seriously, and he thinks that the people of Alabama should make the decision on who their next senator should be. That's also something and a decision that the people of Alabama need to make, not the president, whether or not they want Roy Moore to support them in the Senate.
So I'm surprised by that, to be honest. I'm a little stunned.
I'm surprised about it as well when it first came out. I'm with you on it and the challenge of it. I look at it, the struggle that the people of Alabama have is they don't have somebody that shares their values that they feel like personally, but they also have someone politically that shares their values. And so they're in a bad spot to say, if I vote for one, I'm voting for someone being teenagers, and there's all these salacious accusations, which in all likelihood are true. And then you've got another person don't know how they're going to vote, and they're not going to be able to vote their values when they get there. That's the difficult position the people of Alabama are in, and they've got to be able to find out how they're going to work together to be able to resolve this.
Russia investigation, you're on the Intelligence Committee. Jared Kushner's being called out by not being forthcoming enough. The FBI evidently getting frustrated. Are you frustrated with Jared Kushner and not giving paperwork up that they requested? Because I'm not on the inside. I can only go by what people report from sources on the inside.
I'm not frustrated by that at all. As we work through the process on this, when we've asked for documents, we've received documents, we've had the opportunity to be able to sit down and talk when we had it. We'll have the opportunity to be able to do that again if we choose to. So that's not been difficult. People make much ado about nothing because people want to be able to have the lawyers there, get everything all settled. That's entirely normal in this type of but we've been able to get access to what we've asked for and what we get access to.
Yeah, see any type of collusion, anything disturbing through this investigation as it relates to Donald Trump's campaign?
You know what? I'm not trying to get to the end to be able to say where the committee goes because I happen to be on the committee.
Yep.
So I can't prejudge it in that sense. I would tell you only that as the news comes out and the facts come out, the more people see the facts, the more people say there's nothing here.
Well, and here's the thing. The enemy is Russia. It is not Donald Trump or
Absolutely.
Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely, and I would say that the Russians that are in eastern Ukraine that are occupying Ukraine and pushing back, they would certainly tell you that, whether it's Georgia and their occupation there in Georgia, whether it's in our own elections or in elections across Europe, the Russians are engaging, and we need to pay attention to that.
Senator Lankford, what did you find when you visited not only the people of the Ukraine, but also the National Guard, the 45th Infantry Brigade, located here in Oklahoma?
Yeah, so we've got not only the National Guard from Oklahoma, but you'll be proud to know you got the National Guard from New York that's also there as well. They're training the Ukrainians coming off the front lines in the east. They're training them, helping them be prepared to be able to face on a very powerful Russian army that is occupying their area. And the Russians continue to say those are separatists, and this is a separatist movement that's happening there. But those are Russian officers in Russian uniforms with Russian equipment that are there in eastern Ukraine that are taking a big slice of the country. And what they're doing is they're taking all the energy area, they're the coal mining, they're trying to be able to dominate water purification. The Russians are very strategic into this. I can tell you, Brian, on the flight back from Ukraine, on the way back on that long flight, I took a book with me about Andrew Jackson that you might be familiar with, and spent my long plane ride getting a chance to learn about the Battle of New Orleans. And I do have to compliment you. Great book, very well done on it. Great history and a tremendous perspective of the diversity of people that were fighting in New Orleans, and this picture of America looked like America at the Battle of New Orleans.
Yeah, thanks so much. I got your message. I knew we were going to be on the air today, and I was going to give you a call back. But I also was hoping that you might be in studio while we were at KRMG. But thanks so much, Senator. It meant so much for you to go out of your way to read that. Also, is this one of those seats? Were you in one of these jets where you have to sit on the side with no movies and with the strap across you, as if you're being punished or going to jump out? Or is this a normal jet that you took?
This was not military air on this particular one. I got the benefit of just flying United coming back. So
all right,
sitting
cool.
in United and getting a chance to take it in.
Right. Real quick, on the Ukrainian situation, time's on whose side? I think you just told me it's on Russia's side, but my hope is it's costing them a lot of money. And my hope is when the Ukrainians dig in and show we're not quitting, and America has put troops over there to show we're not moving, that they'll beginning to understand this is too costly. Am I dreaming?
I hope you're not dreaming. I would say that this is the same play that the Russians did in a section of Georgia, where they carved out a section of Georgia. They've held it and occupied it now, and now it's not even disputed anymore because they've held it so long. They did this in Crimea, carving out a section of Crimea. They're now taking a section of the Donbass out of Ukraine. Now, they can just go in and take all of their coal, and take all the resources out of that to be able to pay for their losses in their military actions, which that's what they're doing to be able to maintain that. and they're eagerly trying to be able to train individuals there to be able to hold that ground and to be able to keep it. I don't think the Russians have any intention of trying to give that land back up that they just occupied. They're trying to destabilize Ukraine, and some of the best things that we can do is help train the people in Ukraine, to help equip them, and to, quite frankly, do economic development in Ukraine. Because the more connected they are to the West, the less connected they'll be to the Russians,
right.
And the more connected they'll be to the rest of the world.
I hope we could stop doing maybe coal purchases from Russia/Ukraine. We can understand where it's coming from. We'll see what the return address is. I hope maybe you can have recommendations to the president and how to let them know this is not okay. So besides the sanctions already in place. Senator, can't thank you enough. Appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be able to do it. Enjoy some time in Tulsa. It's an absolutely fantastic city, and I hope they treat you well. I bet they do.
All right, Senator. Thanks so much. See you soon.